Hey guys, sorry for not uploading for a while. I've been huffing paint and playing Megacraft Hentai Edition. Ha, just kidding. I contracted COVID. That's not a joke. I'm recording this audio while being infected with COVID. Most people know arsenic as an incredibly poisonous poison. In fact, about 1/8 of a gram of the stuff is enough to kill a healthy adult, and even less for a child, the elderly, or those with a weaker immune system. Today, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite stories involving element 33. Arsenic was discovered by a German bishop called Albertus Magnus, buried in Cologne. Traditionally, when German chemistry students finish their doctorate, they go to a statue where they touch his thumb as a sign of good luck for their future career. One of the more unique compounds of arsenic is arsenious oxide, As4O6. Arsenious oxide both looks and tastes like sugar, which has undoubtedly led to some confusion. Back in the 1800s, sugar was a lot more expensive than it is today. In 1858, in northern England, a baker named John Neal was trying to save on the amount of sugar he used by mixing in a sugar look-alike. This was actually a common practice back in the day to try and save on the cost of sugar. So, John sent his assistant to a nearby town's pharmacist to try and purchase some white powder. Unfortunately for everyone involved, the assistant didn't specify to the pharmacist that it was for culinary purposes, and thus, the pharmacist gave the assistant 12 pounds of arsenious oxide. With the arsenic in the cakes and pies, there was widespread suffering in the region of England, and it didn't take long before the authorities figured out it was all coming from this bakery. In total, 20 people died and around 200 were ill because of the bakery poisoning. One of the more famous stories of arsenic is that the British used arsenic to kill Napoleon Bonaparte. Historians believe this because they found large doses of arsenic in the base of his hair. Interestingly, chemists believe it came from green wallpaper he used on his walls. When Bonaparte was banished to St. Helena, the house he lived in had a wallpaper with a small amount of a green pigment called Sheila's green. When it got cold at night, the walls would collect condensation and the mold would grow. When the mold processed the arsenic, it would create a toxic arsenic gas which scientists believe weakened Napoleon in his final years. One of the first researchers of arsenic was actually Robert Bunsen, the man who perfected the Bunsen burner, not invented it. Although arsenic has had quite a reputation since ancient times, for example Roman assassins used to smear it on figs, few law-abiding chemists knew much about arsenic until Bunsen started sloshing it around in test tubes. Bunsen worked primarily with arsenic-based cacodyls, chemicals whose name is based on the ancient Greek word for stinky. Cacodyls smelled so foul, Bunsen said, that it made him hallucinate, producing instantaneous tingling of the hands and feet and even giddiness and insensibility. Perhaps in self-interest, they soon developed what is still the best antidote to arsenic poisoning, iron oxide hydrate, a chemical related to rust that clamps onto arsenic in the blood and drags it out. However, he couldn't shield himself from every danger, and a careless explosion of a glass beaker of arsenic blew out his right eye and left him half-blind for the last 60 years of his life. In 1920s Wales, the only lawyer that was ever hanged in the UK was hanged. His name was Herbert Armstrong. Herbert and his wife had a falling out. And instead of just divorcing her, over the course of several months, Herbert poisoned his wife with arsenic until she died. Several months later, with his crime still unnoticed, he had a competitor over for dinner where he sprinkled arsenic powder on his cake. He died the next day. When authorities autopsied the dead competitor, they found he died of arsenic poisoning, which made Herbert a prime suspect. Upon digging up his old wife, they also found arsenic poisoning in her hair. Interestingly, Herbert always claimed he was innocent. But when he was arrested, a packet of arsenic was found in his pocket. He was the first and only lawyer ever hanged in England. The truth hurts. From 1907 to 1917, Archer Gilligan ran a nursing home in Connecticut. When her first husband and business partner James Archer died in 1910, Archer Gilligan was the beneficiary of a substantial, recently purchased life insurance policy. She then married Michael Gilligan in 1913, and 3 months later, he was also dead. Meanwhile, too many people were dying in the nursing home, particularly those who had recently paid for their healthcare with a lump sum. A complaint from a relative led to a newspaper and police investigation, which led to exhumations. Her second husband and several patients tested positive for arsenic poisoning. Archer Gilligan was tried on only one account of murder and found guilty in 1917. She was sentenced to death, but a new trial was granted to determine whether Archer Gilligan was clinically insane. That trial led to a life sentence, but she was later sent to a mental institution where she lived until her death in 1962. It is estimated the number of people Archer Gilligan killed could be anywhere between 5 and 48. Today, arsenic is seldom used in pop culture. There's a scene in an American TV series American Horror Story where somebody sprinkles arsenic dust in somebody else's food as revenge and the person dies instantly. However, arsenic takes anywhere from 12 to 48 hours to affect the ingestee, so now the scene is bullshit for a fourth reason. Anyways, this script is running long, so I better stop now. Bye everyone!
Boom, and we're live. You were just telling me how your son is getting into Bruce Lee, because we were looking at this. Shout out to how do you pronounce his name correctly?
Bruce Lee.
No, Plasticell.